Ball lovers, ball knowers, Bucks fans, welcome back to another episode of the Bucks Beat here on WTMJ. I'm your host, Monis Khan, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Bucks Plus, the official podcast network of the Milwaukee Bucks. And every week here on the Bucks Beat, we're going to have essential insights and analysis from the people who know the team best, the people on the beat. And yeah, we're going to be talking to the beat writers for the Journal-Sentinel and The Athletic who cover the team, but we're also going to be talking to all the creators and the tweeters and the YouTubers who are obsessed with Bucks basketball. And that's the community who we're tapping today. As our guest, we have TJ from Antler Analysis. Now, you may not have heard of Antler Analysis on YouTube, but TJ has had over 900,000 views because he has some of the most informed analysis about what the Bucks are doing on the court that I've ever seen. So we're going to be talking to TJ about what's going on with the offense, how the Bucks can figure out the defensive side of the ball, and what they need to do to close out games more effectively. An amazing conversation with TJ coming up later on in the show. And we're also going to talk about some really encouraging performances from AJ Green over the last few games, from Kevin Porter Jr., and what Kevin Porter Jr.'s return can mean to this team going forward. Because it's a big week. This week, Wednesday, here on WTMJ, you can listen to the Bucks play the Detroit Pistons. Then on Friday, you can hear them play the Philadelphia 76ers and a rematch with the Detroit Pistons on Saturday. It's going to be a very important week, an opportunity for the Bucks to make a statement. Because that's what the team needs to do. After a 4-1 start, everyone, Bucks fans, very excited about how Doc's vision for the team, playing faster, more athletic, flying everywhere on defense, shooting the lights out of the ball, was coming to fruition on the court. You saw the vision. You saw the value that the team put into the people that they brought in during free agency, brought back during free agency, why they believe in this core. You saw the best player in the world, Giannis Antetokounmpo, continue his world-beating trend that he's been on. I mean, just better and better and better every season. He's won 2 MVPs, still playing better than he did in those seasons. But now, the team has gone 5-12 since then. They're 9-13. I mean, even with Giannis missing a few games for sure, that is a very troubling record. Many people are wondering, people are reading about social media and speculating about this and that. And, honestly, the truth of the matter is that a milestone that Giannis achieved this week should give us the real insight into how he feels about being the leader of the Milwaukee Bucks. And that is when he crossed the 21,000 point threshold in points scored in the NBA, a number that he was the 6th fastest player in NBA history to reach. A list that includes Wilt Chamberlain, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Michael Jordan. I mean, a really extraordinary list in basketball history that Giannis is a member of. And yet, there was another milestone that he reached. And that was he became the 12th player in NBA history to cross this 20,000 point threshold on one team. And this is Giannis reacting to learning about that stat after the game against the Nets.
Coach that came in and he told me that there's only like 11 or 12 players who ever scored 21,000 points with one team, and through the history of the game, and you're like, wow.
Now you can see doing it on one team, that means something to Giannis. Obviously, very frustrating loss against the Wizards, a 2-win team that you shot almost 20% better than from 3, and still to come out with the loss has to be frustrating. It has to be really upsetting for the players who have put their all into this game. But I think Doc reminded us after the Nets game, reminded Bucks fans of just how special it is, just how much of a privilege it is to see Giannis suit up for the team and every night do things that it's almost like they've never been done in NBA history. Here's Doc.
And every time he plays, I feel like he's breaking some kind of record.
And that star player, he's going to show up against the Pistons. He's going to show up against Philly. He's going to show up against the Pistons this week. You can listen to those games on WTMJ. And today we're going to talk about what the team needs to do better to support Giannis and to help this team be its best, how it can be a truly elite team in important ways. We're going to talk about the return of KPJ. We're going to talk about how much of a heater AJ Green is on. And we have an exclusive excerpt from the Courtside podcast. That's all coming up on the Bucks Beat. And we'll be back with more after the break. And welcome back to the Bucks Beat here on WTMJ. I'm your host, Monis Khan, and I am thrilled. I'm so excited. When I started the Bucks Beat, TJ from Antler Analysis on YouTube was actually one of the first people I thought of that I would love to have on the show. So here we are just a few weeks in, and the man himself is here. TJ, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Monis. It's a blessing.
You know, TJ, like 900,000 views on your YouTube, not even thousands of videos. You know what I'm saying? Like the volume, like people really tuning in. People love what you're doing. And what I love about Antler Analysis on YouTube is just how in-depth you're able to see what's going on the floor. And TJ, I have to ask you, I think you're the perfect person to ask. The Bucks are number 1 in effective field goal percentage in the NBA. They're number 3 in field goal percentage. You know, every other team in the top 10 of field goal percentage is like on a 50-win pace at least, you know, like Thunder are on like an 80-win pace, right? They're all in the top 10 of field goal percentage. The Bucks 9-13 as of today. TJ, why do you think the Bucks they're so clearly good at making shots, but why are they not as good on offense? Explain to me that disconnect.
It's actually kind of hilarious you brought up some of those stats because I watch all my film on Synergy Sports. So if I were to log into Synergy Sports right now and type in Milwaukee Bucks and pull up their offensive profile, you look at the points per possession and the percentiles that they rank in, every single category, nearly every single category, they're going to be 80th percentile plus. They're elite. So like you said, it's kind of mind-boggling that we're sitting at 9-13. We're number 1 in the league in effective field goal percentage. It's just really frustrating and confusing as a fan. And the way I see it, our offense is completely built around Giannis. And I made an entire video breaking down our offensive system and how that works. And if you look at our sets, they're very Giannis dependent. It depends on Giannis's gravity to create all of these open looks. And he's just the ultimate floor raiser. So we're able to generate great looks. And another thing is a lot of fans will point to our turnovers being a massive problem. But if you look at our turnover percentage amongst the league, it's relatively high. Like I think we're 11th out of 30, which is in the upper half of the league. So it's not like we're turning the ball over a ton either. When Giannis goes down, it's really hard to generate offense. So that's why we had such a bad stretch. Ryan Rollins has been flat out incredible this season, but teams kind of caught on. He's not really a true point guard. I think he's averaging 6 assists to almost 3 turnovers, so not an ideal assist to turnover ratio. And when you have teams full court pressuring him, like you started to see, Miami did it, Portland did it in some of these most recent games, that our offense tended to crumble because we don't have other playmakers around him. KPJ wasn't back yet. Giannis is obviously out. And so who else on that offense do we have to really create good looks? Nobody, because it's completely Giannis-centric. It's based off of his gravity. But again, it still doesn't explain why we're so efficient, yet we're getting killed. And it's ultimately defensive issues.
Yeah, because, you know, last night, the Bucks, 55, if I told you we're playing the 2-win Wizards team, Giannis is back. KPJ is going to drop 30 on extremely efficient shooting. And we're going to shoot – the Bucks are going to shoot 55% from three, and the Wizards are going to shoot 35% from three. I don't think in 99 people I would ask that even one of them would say that the Wizards win that game. And a lot of it had to do with what was going on the defensive end. And TJ, obviously there is like the relationship between how defense is affecting our ability to play offense. But one thing that I want to start here with is like, does this team have the players to be like a 15th or above ranked defense in the NBA?
I think it can be because, last season we had arguably a worse defensive infrastructure. And we especially saw that after the start of the season I think we started 1-6 or something like that at the beginning of last year. And it was because we had hired Greg Buckner to be our new defensive coordinator. And he was just big on not allowing middle penetration, limiting switches. So we were pretty much relying on our guys to stay home, defend one-on-one. And that wasn't our style. So we adjusted. And I think it was that Utah game when we finally picked up our second win of the season, when we just started switching everything 1 through 4. And then the only guy we kept out of those actions was Brook Lopez. We kept him in a drop. Were we a great defensive team? No. But we ranked in the top half of the league because we had a clear-cut identity. Switch everything 1 through 4, leave Brook out of it, let him drop. This season, it's like we don't have Brook anymore. He couldn't move, so we had to keep him in a drop. We had no other option. Miles Turner's extremely versatile in ball screen actions, and we saw that in Indiana. He can flat hedge, he can hard hedge, he can drop, he can switch, he can do all of these things. But because of that, I think we're like over-relying on him. So now he's up to touch in every single ball screen action, and our defense is confused because now that he's up to touch, it's like the guards are like, man, do I switch? Do I stay home? And now it's creating actions in the middle of the floor, short rollers. They can get in the floaters, dunks, layups at the rim. They can pass it back out to the three-point line, wide open spray out opportunities. So it's almost like we're pegging Miles Turner like he's Victor Wembanyama, and we're putting him in impossible situations to succeed defensively when we don't have the infrastructure to have him anchor the entire defense like that. And it's hurting us, and it's pulling him further away from the basket. And that's why you see us give up so many offensive rebounds. Like, it's not all on Miles.
No, and this offensive rebound situation is definitely like, I think the most obvious glaring issue. And it's so easy to look at Miles and be like, hey, get in the mix, man. Like, we all know what the issue is, but I appreciate your understanding and helping us all understand why it is a implication of the design and of his role within the defense, which I think is very, very important. And this is exactly what we'll be getting back to here on the Bucks Beat with TJ from Antler Analysis after the break. We're back on the Bucks Beat with TJ, who has the YouTube channel Antler Analysis. So you heard him before the break, and this is exactly what you get when you subscribe and tune into his content. It's the reason why he has over 900,000 views, just an extraordinary number for a guy, just making content, in the flow of his personal life. But TJ, the reason why I feel like people are able to resonate with your content is just that level of detail. And I'm curious, what is your background in basketball? Did you play it just feels like you are really like about the game. You are a certified ball knower. So like, what's your own history with the game before you started making the content?
Yeah, for sure. So I started playing at a young age. I think I first picked up a ball in 4th grade, and I loved it. Played all throughout grade school, middle school. And then I played my first year of high school as a freshman. I made the freshman team. But I never played. I didn't play. I was probably all of like 4'11", maybe 80 pounds. So I wasn't really doing anything. And at that point, I was a really good three-point shooter. I could get my own shot. I couldn't play a lick of defense, and I didn't understand the game. Like, I didn't understand help side rotations, where to be defensively. Even, like, our own offensive plays, couldn't remember them. Yet, at the end of the season, when I didn't play, and we were good, by the way. We were a really good team, yet I still didn't understand why I didn't play. I was like, man, why aren't they playing me? I'm a bucket. And so I stopped playing after my freshman year. And I still played like club ball here and there, but it wasn't as serious. And in the process of me doing this, I eventually, like, I missed it. Like, I missed actual basketball at a competitive level. And so I got into YouTube, and I initially started as like a news-based NBA creator. Like, it was very much like, my first video was James Harden trade rumors. So it was a rumors video. It wasn't like breaking down the game. It was just like, man, where's James Harden going to go? This was when he was at the end of his Rockets tenure. People were saying, oh, is he wearing the fat suit? And then he eventually got to Brooklyn. So that was that era. And so I started making the content, but the more and more I did it, the more I fell in love with the X's and O's of the game. And so the more I got drawn into basketball, or back into basketball, I should say, at like a high level. And so I began training again, started working. And now that I had a deeper understanding of the game, I was just a much better player. So when I go to play pickup, I felt pretty high level. So I knew I wanted to keep playing at some point. And so this past year, I saw locally, there was a semi-professional tryout where I'm located in Kansas, which is, I go to school at Kansas State University. So I'm in Manhattan right now. And we had a tryout that was probably, I don't know, hour away from me. So I tried out. I ended up making the team. And so it was like my first real experience back in the real basketball. And it was like proving to myself almost like, yeah, you can do this. You didn't understand it back then, but now you have a better understanding of the game. You know how to play with others and yada, yada, yada. So I played.
That's amazing that it wasn't varsity basketball that kind of shaped your mind of the game. It was content and YouTube, and then being a creator on YouTube. And now you have opportunity to actually help others and kind of like build off of this new skill set that you developed off the court. And that kind of brings you back to Kansas. So what are you doing now that you've developed the skill set, you built it, you're channeling it into your content, and how is that shaping what you're doing in your personal life?
Yeah, so currently at Kansas State, I'm a manager for the men's basketball team. I just started in August, and I got that position off the coattails of an internship that I had this summer in Phoenix, where I worked as a player development intern for Scottsdale Basketball, which is owned and operated by Pierre Newton, who is the trainer for Corey Kispert of the Washington Wizards, Damian Lee, who was previously with the Phoenix Suns. He's playing overseas now. And then I also had the opportunity to work with his close friend and business partner, Jesse Childs, who was most recently an assistant with the Austin Spurs. And he's also the personal trainer for Marvin Bagley, Dalen Terry, and a multitude of other guys. So I had the opportunity to work up close and personal with all these high-level guys, pick their brains. Even Cam Johnson, he's another guy I had the opportunity to work with. I saw him the day he got traded to Denver, so that was pretty crazy. And I've had the opportunity to guard these guys up close. So I've just been learning a ton, and hopefully I can apply it to my next season of semi-pro, which is coming up probably February or March, roughly, maybe April. We'll see.
And I think, all of that expertise, all of those experiences, I think you can really see it come through in your ability to analyze the game and break it down. And Bucks fans, I just think I cannot say enough about Antler Analysis, because if you love the Milwaukee Bucks, there are very few platforms that are helping to explain the game and bring you into what is happening on the court. And I just want to, TJ, this is the last question that we'll get out on, and I think it's a very important one, because after every game, after every win Doc is emphasizing ball movement, pace. That's been the name of the game since Doc has arrived in Milwaukee. And then when we lose, it's always the ball getting stuck. Ball got stuck and we lost. And I'm wondering from you, TJ, like you've been around guys, you've been around the game. Is that dynamic? Is it by design when the ball stops moving for the Bucks? Like, is it based on what the plays that they're calling? Is it based on their personnel? Or is it more human nature that guys get into that bag work when the defense starts making things more and more challenging?
To me, I mean, obviously I'm not in that locker room, so I don't have up close and personal. But what I can say is that having a guy like Giannis, and only Giannis, especially now that Dame is gone, Chris is gone, Drew's gone, all the other All-Stars we've had in the past are gone. This is a Giannis team. And the thing with Giannis is that, especially at the end of the games, and this is why I feel that we're one of the worst clutch teams in the league, it just seems like he doesn't have enough trust in his teammates. And we saw that at the end of the game against Washington, because I think for 3 quarters, the ball was not sticking. The ball was moving well. And then in the 4th quarter of that Wizards game, once Giannis checked back in at like the 7-minute mark, it was like, all right, hero ball, here I come. And I can't stand like the possessions where he'll bring it up and it's just like it's an ISO into a midi pull-up, maybe a mid-range fadeaway. And it's like, he showed us over the last year, he can hit that shot now. I think he shot it at like 44% or something like that. It was top 10 amongst guys that had specific high volume. But it's just not, like, teams are living with that shot if Giannis wants to shoot that down the stretch. And there were just way too many instances of that, especially in the Wizards game yesterday. I think there was 3 straight possessions to end the game where that's the shot our offense got. And I think when Doc goes into a press conference, that's just the last thing he sees. It's like, man, the ball didn't move at all. We just had possessions where it's just Giannis coming down, pull-up jumper. And I love Giannis, and he's proven that he's one of the elite playmakers in this game. But he doesn't like to showcase that ability at the end of games. I mean, he did it in Indiana, but that was one example, and the Pacers would live with that. Because, I mean, even if you go back to the playoffs, Game 5 against Indy, who took the shot before it went to overtime? And what was it? It was a fadeaway contested midi that was borderline double-teamed. So I think that's a primary reason why. And even when Giannis went out, then it just became Ryan Rollins' show. And Ryan Rollins is one of the best players in the clutch this year. I mean, you can look at every metric. It'll tell you he's been incredible in the clutch. I think he has a true shooting of 67%, maybe 68, something like that. But the thing with Rollins is he was never a true point guard. Toledo, high school, he was always a 2. And he always said that before he became this lockdown defender, he was a bucket. Like, he was just going to get to his bag. He was going to go get a bucket. And we've even seen that in the games where Giannis has been out. Like that Philly game, Rollins was incredible down the stretch, but it felt like every possession he would bring the ball up and he'd be the one to shoot it. And so Doc is seeing that at the end of games, and then he's just like, he says it in the post-game press conference because that's the last thing he's seen.
No, and I think that we all understand the greatness that is a privilege for every Bucks fan to be able to watch Giannis. And I think Giannis would be the first to admit that as the leader of the team, as one of the best players in the world, he's going to get the credit when he wins, and he's going to have a lot more responsibility when the team isn't performing the way that it needs to perform. And trust is something that, I mean, can we blame him in terms of like the how proven, his teammates used to be like the greatest players in the world, some of the greatest players in NBA history, guys who over 5 years or over years showed him why or how to help, be put in position where they can succeed, right? With Chris Middleton, he knew how to help support Chris. That trust was there. Now this is a new team. That trust needs to be built. And with KPJ coming back, I mean, there are reasons to believe that this team will be able to trend in a better direction and give fans more hope for what's to come. And no better place to start than tomorrow, Wednesday, Detroit. Then on Friday, against the Philadelphia Sixers. Then on Saturday, Detroit again. You know, if the Bucks want to prove to the world and themselves that they're a team to be reckoned with for the rest of the season, it all starts against some real great contenders. TJ, this is why I was so excited to have you on. I'm so grateful for your time today. When we come back here on the Bucks Beat, we'll get into the Bucks story of the week, and we also have an exclusive interview on the Courtside podcast that you will not want to miss. We'll be back here on the Bucks Beat after the break. Welcome back to the Bucks Beat. I'm here with Dylan Hunter Carter, the producer for the Here District podcast on Bucks Plus. This week's episode featuring Michael Redd, an amazing conversation, maybe one of the best episodes of Here District yet, and there's been 91 of them, so that's saying something. Dylan, always a pleasure having you on the show.
Great to be here, Monis. Thank you for having me. Super excited to talk some Bucks basketball.
Yeah, and it's been a challenging week, Dylan, and it's hard. There's a lot of things going around on with the Bucks, many things in their control, right, that they can coach up, watch film, break down. But one of the things that seems outside of their control is what's going on with the referees.
It's been really weird, to be honest. I don't see this happening anywhere else in the NBA. I can't explain exactly why. I'm no conspiracy theorist, but the Bucks have the biggest differential in the league between free throws allowed and free throws attempted. And I don't understand where this is coming from because they have plenty of guys who are playing near the paint, guys who are playing physical, and oh, by the way, the most physical presence in the NBA with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, I don't know, 29th in that margin. I don't understand what's happening. I think the refs maybe need to get their glasses checked, new prescriptions, something of the sort.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that the problem with the problem, right? People are citing the fact that Giannis is not complaining and that Giannis isn't throwing up his hands and he's not reacting to the lack of calls. And then you find amazing team players like Ryan Rollins, like AJ Green, looking at their leader, following suit, also not reacting, and you're basically discouraging that behavior. Like, we don't, as fans watching the game, we don't want to see more reactivity or reactivity be given the benefit. We want to watch our players play through contact, and then if there was a foul committed, that foul is called equally on both ends of the court. So anyways, speaking of some of these stars, one player clearly ascending, AJ Green.
The sharpshooter, Derry Bird himself, is on a heater. Last 4 games, 14.5 points per game. Here's a fun little tidbit. 19 of 31 shots in the last week. That's all the field goal attempts that he's taken. Every single one of them is a 3-point attempt. The guy is shooting 61.3% in his last 4 games, and in that time frame, they lost 3 of those 4 games, but even through that, he's a plus 30 in about 32 minutes per game. So AJ is making his impact felt. He's asserting himself on both sides, and boy, is he shooting the lights out. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, and you are seeing a little bit more playmaking flair from AJ. Everyone knows he's got a bag, and amazing to see him continue to get better. One of the bright spots of what has been a very challenging season. And another bright spot has to be the return of Kevin Porter Jr.
Absolutely. Bucks lost their starting point guard 10 minutes into the season. Started off without him. Things were up and down. Ryan Rollins stepped up. But now that KPJ is back, we can see why he's so important to this team. It shows in the numbers. So he came back versus Brooklyn, dropped 13, 6, 4, a steal, a block. Filling up the stat sheet, getting his legs back under him in a big win, too. That was very important. But then versus Washington, 30 points in 31 minutes, 80% from the field. He had 5 boards, he had some assists, he had 3 steals. He's getting out in the fast break, and he just sets the tone for this team. He's going to run, he's going to defend, he's going to try, and he's going to make some plays that other guys on the court just simply cannot do because of his combination of ball skills and speed.
Yeah, he's a clear leader on the team. They need him on the court in order to be their best. And these back spasms that he's been experiencing is because he goes so hard, even though he's kind of ramping up from injury. Just his play style, his attitude on the court is to go 100%. Another sign that he's learning from the best in the world in Giannis. And now is the chance, we said it on this show already, now is the chance for the team to show what it's really made of this week on WTMJ. You can listen to the game versus the Pistons on Wednesday, the Sixers on Friday, and the Pistons again on Saturday. What a week it will be for Bucks fans to see if the real Milwaukee Bucks can kind of show through and play their best ball against some of the better teams in the league. Dylan, always a pleasure having you on. You guys can watch Dylan, Marcus Johnson, and Chris Johnson on the Here District podcast, airing on the official Bucks YouTube channel every week. This week's conversation with Michael Redd, one of the best you'll hear for sure, Bucks fans. You are going to love it. After the break, we have an exclusive excerpt of the Courtside podcast. You won't want to miss it. And we'll be back on the Bucks Beat after the break. Always a pleasure having Dylan Hunter Carter on from the Here District podcast to join us every week to talk about the Bucks story of the week. And Kevin Porter Jr. definitely going to be an extremely valuable addition to the Bucks lineup, a very important piece for whatever aspirations the Bucks have this season to make a playoff run. And when it comes to what is holding this team back, what is plaguing the team? I know we talked to TJ about what's going on in offense and defense, and we talked to Dylan about how AJ Green is coming on. But I think it's really important to really button down the problems that this team continue to be the most reoccurring, the most frustrating, the most debilitating. And just in order to really understand why this team has gone 5-12 after going 4-1 to start the season, Doc here after the Wizards loss explained it very clearly.
They had 18 more shots than us. You know how hard it is to win a game when you spot a team. I always tell people, just imagine saying you get the first 18 shots and then we'll start the game.
And how do you solve for this deficit, this hole that they start every game in theory? Basically, when the other team has so many more shot attempts than the Bucks do per game. Well, Kevin Porter Jr., after the game against the Wizards, had a very clear idea on what the Bucks need to do in order to fix this reoccurring problem that they've been running into all season.
Clean up guys shooting more possessions. We got to take care of the ball. We turn over the ball too much, and we're fouling, so we really don't have transitions or quick offense. We kind of have to play in a set most of the night. So I think just the 50-50, the effort plays, going on the ground, offensive rebounding. We're getting killed on the offensive rebound. That's how majority of the teams are getting more possessions, and then, like I said, fouling on the second chance. Those are where offense is created, and we got to get better at that.
And that's really what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to that attention to detail. It's going to come down to getting stops, to getting the rebound, to playing more in transition, playing less in the half court, being more aggressive on defense, being more physical. And that's what it's going to take to even out this shot attempt deficit that the Bucks are seemingly facing every night, because the Bucks are shooting the lights out. As we discussed all day today, the Bucks are shooting the lights out against their opponents. But the problem is, even when their opponents are anemic from the three-point line, sometimes the Bucks lose, sometimes the Bucks barely win. And it's going to be creating more possessions, less turnovers, better rebounding. It's just simple fundamentals that, the Bucks have quality players throughout their roster that can help them close this gap. And we'll be back after the break with some more discussion here on the Bucks Beat. Welcome back to the Bucks Beat. And what an episode it's been. I'd like to thank TJ from Antler Analysis, the YouTube channel, for joining us to really break down the X's and O's and the insights behind what the Bucks need to do in order to get back on track this season. And I'd like to thank Dylan Hunter Carter for helping us understand what AJ Green is doing and what Kevin Porter Jr. is doing, and how their performances and consistency can really help this team turn things around. And I think in our last segment, we began to really name and identify those problem areas that are plaguing the Bucks and how the Bucks can really close the gap moving forward. And this is the pivotal part of the season. As we've talked about this week on WTMJ, you can listen to the Bucks on Wednesday night, play the Pistons. Then on Friday, play the Sixers. Then on Saturday this week, you can listen on WTMJ to the Bucks play the Pistons again. That's 2 Pistons games in like 4 days. They're the best team in the East. They're on fire. And this is a great chance for the Bucks to show that they are the team that people thought they were going into the season, that Bucks fans believe that they could be. That the team, you talk to guys in the locker room, there's a lot of belief. It's Kevin Porter Jr. after the Nets game, after the Wizards game, a lot of belief that they can turn it around. And they're going to need their guys. And they're going to need to be healthy. But the talent is there and has shown at different points in the season that they can be this team. And obviously, nothing is worth the risk, the implications of losing. This team is not necessarily too much is at stake for this team to afford to lose any of these games that are coming up. But the team has a pick swap with the New Orleans Pelicans. So the Pelicans shipped off their part of the pick swap. But in the upcoming NBA draft, the team does have a pick swap with the Pelicans. The Pelicans probably among the worst teams in the league, going to finish that way and have a top pick. And the Bucks, will most likely be able to keep their first round pick if it's not traded between now and then. So, perhaps a glimmer of hope or meaning in the challenges that the team has been facing. But next week, we'll be back next Monday, December 8th, 8 to 9 p.m. on WTMJ with the Bucks Beat. It's always a pleasure being with you. My name is Monis Khan. You can catch the Bucks Beat on the WTMJ YouTube channel, and you can follow Bucks Plus at Bucks Plus Audio across social channels. We look forward to catching up with you next week. Until then, have a great one.